Live brought to you by Mancini Sleep World. The Warriors gave the Jazz their 12th consecutive loss. So the Warriors handling their business. And Jonathan Kuminga, back playing off the bench, gave the Warriors 21 and 10. Those rebounds really standing out tonight. We will have the full discussion about Jonathan Kuminga. But first, Klay Thompson, the Warriors' leading scorer tonight with 32, got the team off to a hot start and a lead they never gave up. Klay just sat down at the podium.
I might have heard you pregame talking about how good you feel. Was that just the pregame shooting? Was that just all day you felt good? And did that carry over into the game, I imagine?
I think being home after such a long trip or trips helped a lot, and I just felt really good body-wise today. I didn't feel any pain anywhere, and I thought that transferred over nicely to the gameplay.
How often does that happen when you don't feel any pain going into a game?
Most of the time, but it's 82 games. You're not going to be 100% every night. Yeah. I mean, what I missed, maybe 3-4 games this year? That's incredible after 2 years of rehab plus. So that's something I can hang my hat on and be proud of, is just being durable throughout the season.
Klay, Steve was just saying that he thinks not only is this team probably going to finish with a better record than last year, but that it's a better team and that he likes your chances no matter where you end up in this coming week. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
How is it a better team?
Well, that's to be determined. We got to obviously advance past the West semis, but I think we're playing the best brand of basketball we played all season, and I am going to be very confident going into the play-in. I'm not saying we're better than last year because we haven't advanced further than that, so I can't say that with as much confidence.
Klay, Jonathan and Brandon were both just in here, and they were speaking a little bit along the lines of how whoever's playing or in the rotation or whoever's coming off the bench, it's everybody just believing and doing what you can to help the team win. And you've been in different positions. How much do you appreciate those guys like Brandon and Looney doing whatever he has to do if it's not being in the rotation for a stretch, and how important that is to what's going on now with the wins?
Appreciate both those guys, and especially Loon. Been with Loon for almost 10 years now, and he is the ultimate professional basketball player. And yeah, our young guys have been great this season, and without them, we would not have the chance to enter the playoffs and hit our stride at this moment. So they've been awesome, every single one of them.
What do you think of the plan a few years in? And like, if this was most of your career, you guys would be, desperately trying to get to 8 to get in, but now you're pretty settled.
Well, lucky us. So we get a chance to compete in the postseason, and I'm very grateful for that because there was a time where the Warriors made the postseason once in 18 years. So I hope people can be grateful for that we have a chance to, chase greatness.
All right, Klay Thompson has missed only 4 games this season. He's right. He can hang his hat on that. The body is feeling good, and he started this game like he was fresh. Monte?
Yeah, Klay came off the bench firing. in the starting lineup firing. Klay is a rhythm shooter, and when he has his rhythm, you get the feeling that everything he throws up is going to go in because it kind of does happen that way sometimes. So I think the Warriors needed somebody to give them a jump start. This is one of those games where you're playing against a Utah team that's missing most of its better players. You've got to figure out how do we get this game going early and don't give it back, because we've seen some games this season where the Warriors play a team they're supposed to beat and they didn't do it. So this was a gimme game, a game they had to win, and Klay made sure that they got off to a good start.
Well, he had 11 points in the first 7 minutes, and you're thinking, okay, we got a Klay game on our hands, arriving at 25 by halftime. But he also had the assists going, also had the rebounds going. He was the spark that gave him
complete
the
player
early.
today,
Yeah.
and you watch him what he does on offense, and I think Klay gets pigeonholed in many ways as a guy who can just shoot threes, and he does more than that on the offensive end. I mean, he's a guy who can actually throw a decent lob pass and can do some other things. So, game like this, you got a chance to play a team that you're supposed to really kind of mash, and Klay took advantage. I mean, this was the team that he played against in his first game off the bench in Utah. You know, back when he first was put on the bench.
Scored 35 in that
35
game. I think.
points
Yeah,
in that game.
Right.
That's right.
Okay.
Same team, but
Yeah.
not the same players, but
Right.
the same team. So, yeah, Klay deserves the flowers for what he did tonight because he carried the offense. No Steph, no Wiggs. Klay did his job and then some.
Yeah, Klay Thompson, our BMW Ultimate Performer. By the way, this is Warriors Insider Monte Poole. I'm Kerith Burke. Let's talk about Jonathan Kuminga coming off the bench tonight. His first game after 6 games out with bilateral knee tendonitis. Not only 21 points, but the 10 rebounds. That's something that really stood out in this game, Monty, and he addressed it. He said, you know, wasn't a criticism or a suggestion for Kuminga at the beginning of the season was he's got a rebound. That was in the back of his head. He mentioned that on the podium tonight.
Absolutely. You know, that's one of the things, whenever people were asking, well, why doesn't Kuminga get more minutes? Why isn't he playing? And one of the reasons why is that he would give you 20 minutes and 1 rebound. And you can't have a power forward, which is basically his best position right now. You can't have a power forward being the guy going out there and getting 20 minutes, 25 minutes, and giving you 1 or 2 rebounds. Tonight, yeah, he had 10, team high. So when Kuminga can score like this and rebound like this, it doesn't matter whether he's starting or coming off the bench because you know you're going to get something. And I personally like the idea of him coming off the bench at this point for sure because the lineup they have up front now with Trace and Draymond gives them an interior defense that you have to be able to compete against better teams in this league. I'm not saying you're going to win, you know, all those games, but if you want to be able to compete with teams in the West especially, you got to have some defense in the interior there. And Trace and Draymond give you that. And the idea of J.K. coming off the bench, you know, there's 2 guys on this team that can come off the bench and make defenses pay attention, J.K. and Klay.
Okay.
And if you have either one of those guys come off your bench, the defense is going, okay, we got to deal with this guy. And that's a good feeling if you're Steve Kerr.
So we're talking about Jonathan Kuminga coming off the bench because Steve Kerr wants to keep Draymond and TJD linked. So this actually seems more like a decision for Draymond. What is the best for Draymond? You keep him at the 4
Yes.
instead of the 5. Okay.
Yes.
So Jonathan Kuminga is involved with this. So you have a bench with CP3, Jonathan Kuminga, Brandin Podziemski. We should give him some credit too.
Yeah,
That's a
played well.
potent bench right there.
Yeah, it is. I mean, that's the thing, is that, you know, Chris can play with anybody and try and maximize whoever he's playing with. He maximizes what they do best. If it's Klay, he's going to find Klay. He's always said that, and you see it happening. Tonight when he started, who was he looking for? Klay.
Okay.
Who was he getting? Klay. And what were the Warriors getting? Buckets. So you look at that, and it's a winning sort of a winning formula. But when you move past that, he can play with J.K. He can feed Trace if Trace is out there with him. Chris is a guy who can do a little bit of anything you need with anybody he's on the court with. And I just think the bench, you know, we've seen I don't know how many iterations of the bench this year, like 400.
Yes.
You know? So-
Yes.
and we've seen 25 starting lineups, I think it is now.
It's
So
26 now,
26,
actually.
26,
Yeah.
yeah. So 26 starting lineups. So that's not to say that what you had tonight is going to stay, because it's not. Steph's going to be back.
Okay.
And when Steph comes back, then BP will go to the bench. Chris will go to the bench. You know, something's yeah.
Yeah.
So you got to figure that out. But Wiggins comes back. He worked out before the game, so there's a chance he could play on Tuesday in LA. So if you get Wiggins and Steph back in their lineup, then you got Klay with Draymond and Trace. That's a nice starting 5. And then you get off the bench, you still have Chris, you got BP, you got JK, you got Moses, so you got GP too. So the Warriors look like they're figuring out their best teams, their best starting lineup, and a bench that can be potent and give them some action in games that they're going to need, because the play-in game is what they're looking at right now.
Yeah.
You know, they wanted to get to the 6. We want to get to the 6. That's pretty much gone.
Okay.
But at this stage, they're 10th, and yeah, they gained on Sacramento, you know, a game apart behind them. So it's still a race. They want to get to 7 or 8. Still possible. They beat the Lakers on Tuesday. You know, that'll be a big move. So we'll see. But I like where the lineups are right now, and I think they like it too, because you're looking at a starting lineup, when you have Trace out there with Draymond, that gives you the defense you need. And the idea of JK coming off the bench, Yeah, if he's going to get you 20 and 10 off the bench,
Okay.
absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
Well, would the same things apply that, we were talking about how when Klay Thompson moved to the bench, that took a little defensive pressure off of him as well. He's
Yes.
not guarding. Would the same apply to JK a little bit?
That's a fair question. I maybe not as much. I think JK's defense has been better than Klay's defense this year.
Okay.
On ball. And both off ball, both of them have their moments. But on ball, JK is a guy you can put on 3 or 4 different positions. And so he's going to give them pretty good defense. But I think if he scores, he's one of those guys, if he scores, I think it gets his head in the game a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Like tonight, he was all over the place tonight. He was scrambling and running and sprinting. I was watching the game, I'm thinking, JK is playing like a guy who says, I'm going to make them put him back in the starting lineup.
Okay.
Well,
also, and my knees are fine.
yes. Oh, man.
Yeah.
He didn't see any sign of a limp tonight.
Yeah,
I mean, he was
springy,
like,
good.
he looked as good as he's looked in a while. I mean, even before he went out with the knee injury or the tendonitis. So tonight, I just think the guy you saw tonight is the guy the Warriors would take every single game, bench or starter, for the rest of his career here.
Okay. All right. Steph Curry missed this game. It was a rest night for Steph. The Warriors announcing that pretty early, finding some time for him
Yes.
to rest. But it seemed like it had been a conversation for a little while. So the 7th game that he's missed, he's played 71 games this season, the most since 2016, 2017. And seeing Steph rest tonight made me wonder, are there places for other guys to rest? Okay, maybe Draymond, maybe CP3. Wiggins was out with the ankle injury. We're not sure how long that's going to go. Klay Thompson, does he need a rest night? What are you thinking? They're running out of time,
Well-
frankly, too. Like, where do they do it? Is it that last Jazz game?
Well, yeah. I mean, you get past this Laker game first.
Of course.
And I think that then you figure out where do we go from here. If they win the Laker game, okay, they want to stay ahead of the Lakers. If they lose it, then maybe you do fall back a little bit. So I think for the Warriors, the best course of action is to focus on the next game because that's the game that can dictate whether they can move up or not.
Okay.
If they go to LA and they lose, then they're probably not going to move up. So, and then you can probably rest somebody against the Blazers or the Jazz. You're gonna
That's a
see each of those
back-to-back,
things. Yeah.
yeah.
So
Or there's
but
a
you don't want to
back-to-back.
rest anybody against the Pelicans. The Pelicans are right there too in that box. So that's the toughest game they have left, I think. The Lakers, LeBron didn't feel well today, so he didn't play. The Lakers and the Pelicans are the 2 tough teams they play. The Blazers and the Jazz are the 2 easy teams they play. I think there will be some rest for somebody, but probably not to the last game of the season.
I feel like LeBron might be well enough to play on
You do, huh?
Tuesday.
Just a hunch, huh?
What do you think?
Just a hunch, huh? Yeah,
what
just
do
a
you think?
hunch.
Yeah,
Yeah. I guess he had some stomach flu or something tonight. They said, he got to the arena and didn't feel good, and he was sent home because they don't want him infecting anybody else on the team.
That's good.
That's
okay.
what I heard, at least. So,
But narrative-wise, flu game. He's gonna put the team on his back. He's gonna get that tiebreaker.
You think LeBron would do that?
I don't know. I think
I
he's
don't know.
very aware of storylines.
Yeah,
Very
he
aware of
is that.
storylines.
He is that. But no, I definitely believe that when the Warriors go down there to play these guys on Tuesday, they're going to get the Lakers team that wants to make a show. And they understand what's at stake, too.
Sure.
And they understand if they lose this game, they lose the season. It's a season series tie. I mean, if the Lakers lose this game, the Warriors win the season series. If the Lakers win, it's a season series tie. But the next tiebreaker goes to L.A.
Okay.
So for the Warriors, winning is paramount. That's the only way they can get the tiebreaker over the Lakers.
Okay. I hope LeBron feels good. I don't want anybody to be sick. I don't want anybody to be hurt, but there's a lot at stake at this game. So, yes. Okay. All right. When we come back, we need to talk about these rookies, Pods, TJD, their performances tonight, and what Pods told us pregame about the goal of going 5-0 for the remaining games in the regular season. We'll talk about it when Dubs Talk Live returns.
Dubs Talk Live is presented by Mancini Sleep World. Visit us during our spring clearance sale. Save big on premium mattresses, plus free delivery. Hurry in now or visit us online at sleepworld.com.
Folks, we've got William, Katrina, Otis, Sidecar Tommy. I'm wondering if my mom is in there tonight. I don't know.
probably in there somewhere.
Maybe.
Come
Hi,
on, she's a
Mommy.
faithful fan, so she better be there.
She's not always in the chat, though. I tell her
Okay,
to
all
hold
right.
off from the chat. But yeah, the people are laughing at me for laughing at LeBron. So I hope he feels okay. You don't want anybody to get sick.
Yeah, we're not laughing because he's sick. You're laughing
No.
because, you know, like you said,
Because he's very aware, and
of
if he can play,
storylines.
yes,
Yeah,
if he can, yes.
yeah.
Why not? LeBron can be a hero in many different ways. I forgot where I was going with that. Oh, just the fact that Pods told us in the interview, me and Fez, like, we want to go 5-0. Usually they're like, well, we got to take it one game at a time. You kind of don't
Yeah.
reveal what the team is talking about. But listen, just to state it that plainly, the Warriors are watching the standings. They're not happy with being the 10th seed, although they clinched. So yeah. 5-0 is the goal.
Yeah, well, they got one down. They got 4 more to go. You know, that would give them a sort of a running start into the play-in tournament. And you want to go into that tournament on a high. And if they go 5-0, they finish with 47-35, which is 3 games better than they were last year when they finished 44-38, and they got the 6th seed. It's a different Western Conference this year, though.
Yeah.
And so 47-35, you know, we said weeks ago that to get to 6, you got to win 49 or so games. And it might be 50.
I think it's in low 50s. I think
Yeah,
was,
you might have to get 50 to get there. So it's that tough right now. Right now, they're beating up on each other. Tonight, you know, the Pelicans beat up on the Suns. So they're playing each other. So there's going to be losers and winners every night. There's going to be movement every night in the Western Conference. If you're the Warriors, though, your movement is just to go up as best you can.
Okay. We are back on Dubstock Live, brought to you by Mancini Sleep World. We need to talk about these rookies. TJD giving the Warriors 16-7 with 4 blocks, but also getting that vote of confidence from Steve Kerr, who's been confident in him for, I'd say, a couple weeks now, several weeks now, really liking that pairing with TJD alongside Draymond, and he's thriving in that role too, because it's not just with Draymond, he also has the connection with Klay. And
with
CP3.
Chris. Yeah.
I don't know.
I like the combo mostly because it allows Draymond to do what he does best. And that is, you know, he can guard 3 or 4 guys in one possession if he needs to. He can go wherever the action is. And at the same time, he doesn't have to worry about somebody getting him behind his back because Trace is back there.
Yeah. And his 4 blocks.
Yeah.
Leading the team with blocks.
And so when you have a Trace on your team, and for Draymond, it's a little different, but not dramatically different from when he was playing alongside Andrew Bogut. You know, with Bogut, you had a guy who was behind you, and you trusted him, you knew he'd be there. Now, Trace isn't at Bogut level in terms of trust and all of that, but he is right now at the level where Draymond can say, I believe in him. And he's giving him reasons for Draymond to believe in him with the blocks, with the deterrences that he's able to get. People come to the rim. I've seen guys now kind of detour when they see Trace there. So if you're Draymond, you're loving that. And it gives him a chance to go out and sort of freelance a little bit. You've seen his steals pick up lately because he doesn't have to be mired down in the paint guarding Nikola Jokic or somebody like that. He's able to, like, okay, Trace has me. What's going on? Where's the ball? I can go track it down. And a lot of times it goes the other way for the Warriors.
Well, and I'm looking at just kind of considering how many fouls Draymond has been getting lately. It's not a lot. He has not been in foul trouble in a lot of these games. That coincides with playing alongside Trace as well. So yeah, those two bringing out the best in each other, and that's why Steve Kerr is saying he's sticking with that lineup. Maybe Jonathan Kuminga does not go back into the starting lineup.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
That Trace and Draymond's defensive rating is it's under 100, which is tremendous. So you don't mess with that. It's what you have to do to compete. And so if you want Draymond to be healthy and be at his peak, you keep doing this. Okay. You know, and I know, and Steve was saying earlier, you know, it was really good when they had Kuminga and Wiggins, Draymond. They got that group was together at first. It was kind of janky at first, but they got it together and you saw where it went. But this is a whole other level of defense, and with Trace out there, and you're seeing the Warriors play at that level of defense these past couple weeks now. They've done it without J.K., who can play pretty good defense too. But now J.K. can be a defensive guy off the bench. I think you don't mess with this. I know there are some J.K. fans out there who want him back in the starting lineup, but if you're Steve Kerr, you're like, no. When Wiggins comes back, when Steph comes back, you lock that in.
Okay.
And then if Steph or rather if Wiggins hits a lull, you've got JK. You've got options there. You've got 10 guys you can trust out there on the floor. And do you want to play all 10? Not necessarily, but you can play all 10. And so, I like the idea of sticking with Draymond and Trace out there, mostly because it allows Draymond to be at his best.
Okay. We were going to talk about the rookies, and I was just looking at the box. It was like TJD 16-7. Wait a minute, was that the note I had for Brandin Podziemski? 16-7. Okay, the same line, but Pods also added 6 assists in this game, so this gives him his 17th game with at least 10 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. He gives you meaningful production.
On a regular basis.
On a regular
Yes,
basis. He
yeah.
has an impact in games that's pretty special for a rookie.
Yeah, I just thought, when he was starting, that stretch of games when he was starting, he didn't score enough. And not just that he didn't score enough, he didn't pose enough of a scoring threat. And teams are starting to sag off of him. When that happens, the Warriors' offense has more of an issue now.
Okay.
Because if he can't space the floor as a guard, then what are you going to do with the other guys are going to have to deal with that. And so in Steph's case, Steph was getting double teamed. And so Steve said, okay, this isn't working, go back to Klay. And it's worked well, the blend of offense and defense there. But Brandon gives you something every time he goes out there. And even then, he was giving you 4 points, but he might give you 6 assists and 8 rebounds, something like that. He's a winning player. But I think what he does fits better in kind of what you need. He's one of those guys who watches the game and says, what do we need to do?
Yeah.
Goes out there, kind of like Andre Iguodala used to be.
Yeah.
You come into a game, he'd watch the game, study it, and say, okay, when I go out there, tonight I need to shoot a little bit. Tonight I need to just defend. Tonight I need to connect guys. Brandon does that same thing. Not the same level.
Sure, I got you.
but
No,
he
I
does.
understand. The
It's
spirit
a
is
similar
right.
approach, though.
I would love to talk to Andre about Pods. I would love to talk to him about Pods. One of the things Pods told us pregame is that the Warriors want to go 5-0. They had 5 games left when we talked to him pregame, obviously. Now, this is not earth-shattering, okay, to hear this goal. However, sometimes you hear players say, oh, we got to take it a game at a time. No, he just named it. He's like, we want to win out. We need to win out this season because the goal is to move up beyond that 10 spot. Here are the chances they have, okay? They handled Utah tonight, which they needed to do. That is a struggling team. That Lakers game should be tough. Portland has not done well this season. The Pelicans game will be tough. And then maybe the Warriors are extremely lucky that their last game of the season is against Utah. So they have their chances. The Warriors have their chances here.
Yeah, I mean, the big games are the Lakers and the Pelicans. And the Laker game, being the next game in L.A., and the Warriors have had sort of a checkered history in L.A. lately. They've had some losses, some wins. And the offense sometimes doesn't play as well as it needs to, but this is a playoff caliber game. And this is for a playoff positioning in many ways. And so I think if you're the Warriors, you know what it means. I think I expect Wiggins to play. I expect Steph to play. Let's just say I think the injury report for Tuesday is going to be very, very short, and it needs to be.
Well, and for the Lakers, though, I just got the note from our producer, Vince, that Anthony Davis left the game tonight. So the Lakers are struggling with some things.
Yeah, you never know with AD.
Yeah.
And every time the season begins and you look at the Lakers these past few years, my thing has been, that AD and LeBron are going to miss a chunk of games because every year they do. I mean, LeBron's at his age, 39. AD has just been that way for his entire career. You just don't know when it's going to be and how many games it's going to be.
Yeah.
If you're the Lakers, you don't want it to happen in April.
No, yeah. What chunk is it going to be? Yeah. All right, this Lakers game feeling huge. All right, when we come back on Dubstock Live, brought to you by Mancini Sleep World, we have to talk about whether it feels right or not to celebrate clinching a 10 seed. We'll discuss when we come back. There you go, Klay Thompson, little sidestep.
Bucket.
Easy does it. 32 points for Klay Thompson tonight. All right, I just see, I'm sorry, somebody said, Adriana said AD got an eye injury tonight.
Ooh.
Oh, that stinks.
Oh, boy.
Yikes. I hope he's all right. Yeah. So he says Chris Paul has always missed games too, although this season, well, he did with his hand injury.
Yeah.
But relatively speaking, for the veterans on the team, with Klay only missing 4 games, with Steph missing 7, this was his 7th tonight. That's been extremely helpful for what the Warriors are trying to do.
Yeah.
CP missed, 2 months, 3 months.
No,
He still wears the thing.
He missed 6-7 weeks.
That's it for the for a hand fracture?
Yeah, he missed. Yeah,
Gosh, time just
less
blurred
than
for
2
me.
months, but he missed most
Yeah.
of January and February.
Yeah, he wears this little thing on his, like a protection thing. It looks like a honeycomb. It looks like a beeswax type of thing, but
Oh,
it
yeah.
hasn't impacted his play at all because he's still
No.
getting steals. He's still defending
Yeah,
well,
I mean,
shooting well.
His first game back, he was getting steals.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude. I mean,
I know.
You're sticking
Hey.
your hand in the action. Chris is a gamer. You know, he's a gamer. That's one of the reasons why the Warriors hated him when he was on other teams.
Hated him, huh?
Hated him.
Hate.
Oh.
Hate.
He was a guy that the Warriors hated to play. And
Disliked him strongly.
no, that too.
Yeah, okay.
There were
Okay.
a few guys the Warriors didn't like a lot, and he was one of them. The Warriors, you know that.
I know.
And their
I'm just
fans
like-
know that too. It's
just
like
saying hate's a strong word, but you're
yeah,
right.
it is. But
yeah.
but I mean, if you're gonna look at
He was an
guys-
antagonist for a long time because he does those things like your shirt's not tucked in or your foot was on the line or like, you know what I mean? Like he works the refs with the rule book and those guys are kind of dorks.
Yes,
So-
it's annoying if you're on the other team.
yes, correct.
And for all these years, Chris has been playing basketball since 1850. And so for all these years,
He invented the
doing
game,
that.
actually. Yeah. It was
So-
a pumpkin in a basket. Welcome back to Dubstock. All right, the Warriors clinched a 10 seed, and on social media, people had a few things to say. Listen, I do get this fact that you always celebrate when you make it to the postseason, but the 10 seed, when you consider who are the veterans on this team and the payroll of the team,
Where they've been.
okay, I can understand why the Warriors got dunked on a little bit for that, because the Warriors are adding up those games. You know, like, man, those games where we had a 12-point lead, if we didn't lose those games, if we had 3 of those, if we had 4 of those, look how different the standings would
Yeah,
be.
yeah.
You know, and that's why maybe I can understand why there's some cynical people out there.
Yeah, Steve Kerr pointed out, how much the Dallas loss hurt the other night,
Mm-hmm.
and it did. But to me, I go back to the games against the Bulls and the Spurs here.
Okay.
They were feeling good about themselves. They come home after a nice road trip, and they stomp the Milwaukee Bucks.
That's right.
Feeling okay, we found, and they lose to the Bulls and the Spurs. And the Bulls are sub-mediocre, and the Spurs were without Wemby, they were without Keldon Johnson, they were without Devin Vassell.
Yeah.
And they let those two teams come in here and beat them.
Mm-hmm.
When you let the Bulls and the Spurs beat you at that point of the season, you let yourself down. And those 2 wins would make a difference too. So, yeah, there's a bunch of wins they left on the table, but too late now.
All right, the Warriors want to go 5-0. They got the first one down. The Lakers game is huge. It's coming up on Tuesday. It is at Crypto. It's at Staples, guys. And we'll have your coverage, so stay tuned. Thank you very much for watching Dubstock Live, brought to you by Mancini Sleep World. We will continue the conversation on YouTube. I have such a hard time saying crypto. Such a hard time saying crypto. It's just not in my head. No way. I want to go
Crypto.com.
down. I want to go down and see the Kobe statue.
I do too.
Yeah, I would really like to see that.
I'll probably go down there. If I don't go down in
Yeah.
postseason, I'll go down
Yeah.
anyway. Just when I go to
Yeah.
SoCal this summer.
All right. Thank you. And us is letting us know Dave McMenamin is reporting that the Lakers are optimistic AD will play on Tuesday. So I hope his eye injury is not.
Yeah.
is not that
If the
bad.
Warriors win that game,
Yeah.
they move ahead of the Lakers. I mean,
Okay,
the
that's
records.
massive,
Yeah,
massive.
the records are the same, but they have the tiebreakers, so they move ahead of the Lakers. And what that means is the game will be here instead of there if they end up with those 2 teams.
Yeah.
And like Steve Kerr said, we've been better on the road than we have been at home, so it's hard to know what the advantage is if there is one. Either way, you got to beat them.
Well, and players have long memories. It was the team that kicked the Warriors out of the postseason last year. It was the Lakers.
Yeah.
You know, all that kind of stuff. It's
Yep.
still a little fresh, you'd say.
Yeah, well, the last 2 times the Warriors picked out of the postseason, it was the Lakers.
It was the Lakers.
Yeah, so 21 and 23.
That's right. The first play-in, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think for the Warriors now, you lock in on the Lakers, you get healthy. And the thing that you absolutely have to bring against that team is you can't let their size beat you inside. And I think that's where Trace is going to come in. That's where Draymond can be Draymond. But I think you might even see Looney get minutes because the Lakers are big. If AD is going to play, I mean, they've got a lot of 6'7", 6'8", and above bodies on that team. And the Warriors are a good rebounding team, but they have to do it against the Lakers. They can't be giving those guys second and third shots. And to me, it's about defense more than offense. They'll score, but they've got to make sure the Lakers don't beat them with like second chance points and fast break points and points in the paint.
This feels like it's shaping up to be the biggest test of the regular season for TJD, actually.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, I say that because of what the significance of the game.
Yes.
I mean, to me, it's a big test when you go out there. It's more of a lesson than a test when you go out there and you play against Nikola Jokic.
Yeah,
that's
okay.
a lesson.
No, I got okay. No, I
But
got
yeah,
the schooling.
in terms
That's-
of, but this
Yeah.
means so much more.
Yes.
So yeah, I totally
Yeah.
agree with that.
There
Yep.
you go. All right. All right. Thank you, everybody. The injury report is always linked in my Twitter bio. Refresh, refresh, refresh ahead of that big game on Tuesday. All right. Well, we'll be back soon.